we're going to go straight into topic 3 and start talking about smart spending. Okay, our agenda: credit and debt management. We'll talk about financial consumer awareness. We'll look at car buying strategies and home buying strategies. And some of those 2 items, there'll be some handouts on that that'll be a lot more detailed than what I'm going to share with you today. And then lastly, we'll talk about insurance. Okay, credit and debt management. The impact of credit. Okay, the thing about it, the picture on the right shows a critically past due bill. Okay, folks, you don't ever want to get yourself in this situation. Now, have we seen people get kicked out of the military because they can't manage their finances? You bet we have. If you can't manage your finances, probably the first thing it's going to affect is what? It's going to affect your security clearance. So make sure, hey, if you've got questions, ask questions. It's okay. We don't expect you to know everything, okay? We know that you guys are smart folks, but you just kind of need to get in front of somebody that maybe can explain a few things just to help you. Like going back to what I initially said, be like a sponge. Take that stuff in, and yeah, you're going to get rid of most of it, but man, there's a lot of things you can learn from a lot of people, okay? So here's your impact, all right? And then you will move on to credit reports. You can get a credit report free from each of these agencies. So you can get 3 free credit reports if you go to annualcreditreport.com, free 3 times a year. Or you can always come to the Airman and Family Readiness Center and we can run your credit report for you. Now, personally, I don't know anybody that does it 3 times a year. Okay, maybe people that have had some identity theft situations going on, maybe they do it, okay, and that's great. But most people, if they would just do it once a year, just to make sure that all of their stuff in there actually applies to them, okay, because there is some folks have had some surprises with their credit reports when they've opened it up. So I would encourage you, yes, do that at least once a year. Okay, the credit report components. It's going to have identification and employment. It'll show payment history. It'll show anytime somebody's inquired on your account. Like if you're looking for a car and you go to a couple different dealerships, well, they will show that they've inquired about your credit report to see if they could give you a loan to buy a vehicle. Well, those inquiries, they stay on your credit report for 2 years. Okay, there's also public record information. And then like if there's a lien or a judgment on a property or something like that, that may be in there. If there's a bankruptcy, that would be in there as well, okay? But the main thing is the information in there, is it accurate? And if it's not, you need to bring it to somebody's attention, okay? Credit scores, what's a good number? Okay, so they tell us that 750 or higher, you're in the excellent rating. So that means if you're above that, and you want to go get a loan and you're in that category, you're going to get the cheapest interest rate that they will offer, okay? Unless it's some kind of special deal like 0% financing for 5 years or whatever. But if they have to finance it, or if you have to finance it and there's an interest that's going to be tied to it, you'll get the cheapest rate. These other categories are good as well, like 700 to 749, still very good. When it gets pretty bad, it's down. If you get to 600 and you're below that, they may give you a loan, but man, they're going to charge you a lot of money for interest rates. So you really want to kind of make sure you know that you have a good credit score before you look at buying something in a long-term basis, like 5 or 6 years for a car payment, or even 30 years for a house. Okay, let's move on. Choosing a credit card. Okay, some people think it's that people shouldn't use credit cards. Okay, a lot of folks think that. But we're in a world where, pretty much we're going to have to use a credit card. Eventually, if you haven't already done so, you're going to have to sign up for the government travel card, okay? So anytime you travel, go TDY, you'll be using that card for your expenses. But then some people, they want another card. Now, this is an example of a card that has benefited and still does benefit a lot of military folks. Look at that first bullet there. They waive that $550 annual fee for active duty members. So this may be one to look at. There's a lot of things this card will do for you, so you can go online, look at it, and just get in more details about it if you want to do that. Here's that government travel card that I mentioned. Yeah, it is necessary for travel. Airmen must apply for it. The type of credit issued, it will reflect your credit rating. But you know what? There are some people that their credit rating is so bad, they can't even get a card. So when they go TDY, they have to get cash advance payments to do their TDY. So hopefully you're not in that situation and you don't ever want to get there, okay? So, and I've seen this in my 24-year career, I've seen people get kicked out of the military for misuse of their government travel card. So make sure that you're using it properly. Managing debt, okay? Too much of a good thing is not a good thing. This slide here, it kind of reminds me of an ice cream, a local ice cream place here. It's called Brahms. If you haven't tried it, go try it, okay? It's phenomenal ice cream. But, you know, banana splits are great, but should you have it every day? Probably not, okay? As much as you may want to, we probably shouldn't do that. Let's move on. Recovering from excessive debt. So some of you may have multiple debt lines, as in maybe you have a student loan, maybe you have car payments, maybe you have credit card debt, okay? And it's not unusual. Sometimes that happens. But hey, it's time for you to take charge. You know, prioritize your debts. There is a website called powerpay.org. And it's pretty easy and it's free. Actually, Utah State University set it up and they will guarantee you to get out of debt the fastest way possible. And it's pretty awesome. And if you've got concerns with your debt or whatever, hey, talk to me about it and I can walk you through that and show you how that works pretty easy. But talk with your creditors. Get legal counsel. Okay, but the main thing is that bottom right-hand box there. It's all about trying to change your behavior. And you and I both know anytime you're wanting to try to change your behavior, it's not easy. It's just not. So be encouraged and you can do it and get people on your side to kind of, you know, be your cheerleader for you, okay? All right, student loan debt. Some of you may have that. Some of you maybe or may have not looked into the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Okay, if you have a lot of student loan debt, well, your time in the military can maybe help offset what you might have to pay for your student loan debt. So that'd be something to look into. Credit and debt management. So have a working spending plan. Calculate your debt to income ratio. Okay, try to keep that goal of less than 20% of your net income. Plan for credit purchases. Shop for credit. Check your credit report annually and manage your debt. If you have debt, hey, do what you can to just get rid of it. I use a credit card all the time, but I've learned by a lesson years ago that now if I use a credit card, I don't care what's on the bill. It may be $100, it may be $1,000. If I put something on that credit card, I already know that I have the money to pay for it when it comes in, because I am not going to be paying what Dave Ramsey calls stupid money, and that would be interest on credit cards, just because I want something and I don't necessarily need it at this point. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk about financial consumer awareness. Okay, military consumer awareness. You know what, there's a lot of folks, I'm going to back it up a second. There's a lot of folks out there that are, hey, you know, they see you as a prime person to want to try to get a hold of some of your money. They know you're an officer in the Air Force. They know you get paid pretty good money and you're getting paid on a consistent basis every 2 weeks. So just keep your eyes open, okay? Misrepresentation, frauds, and scams. You can do a Google search. I did this the other day and I looked up the Consumer Action Handbook. It's incredible how much information is in there. Do a Google search and look at it, and I believe this thing is like 154 pages long. But man, it's there to help you to make sure you're not getting associated with people that are trying to get a hold of your money, maybe illegally. So it's a good handbook to look at, so you might want to check into that. Okay, the next thing we're going to cover is predatory businesses. Okay, when you see signs like this, don't go in there. They're going to just really take advantage of you, and maybe you're in a bad spot, but there are other things that you can do. If you're in an emergency type situation, hey, we run the Air Force Aid Society out of our office at the Airmen and Family Readiness Center. Come talk to us. Come talk to Sergeant Camacho, okay? He's our Readiness NCO, and there may be a way that we can help you financially when you get to a pinch until you get that emergency fund built up, okay? strategies for making major purchases. Yeah, know what you want. What is your motive? Examine your motives. Try not to buy anything on impulse. I had a gal not too long ago came in my office and told me that she had bought something on impulse, okay? And I said, well, how much was it? And she said, well, it was $38,500 and it's out in the parking lot. And I go, oh, okay. Well, let's go look at it. So yeah, try not to, good idea to the last bullet there, good idea to sleep on it, okay? Do your homework, comparison shop, try to get agreements in writing, but definitely you want to sleep on it and take a friend with you. Take a buddy that's kind of your sidekick to say, okay, yeah, this doesn't sound too good, or hey, this looks like a good deal. It's always good to have two heads better than one, all right? Predatory lending. These are the folks you want to avoid as well. There's a lot of payday loan folks out there. So, and they want to give you loans or auto title loans or refund anticipation loans. A lot of things out there, but try not to get involved in any of these types of loans. You are protected under the Military Lending Act of 2007, and what that does is they are required to minimize your interest rate to the low number of 36%. Can you imagine paying 36% on a loan from a place like this? Well, hey, that's a low number because you're in the military. There are some folks out there in the civilian world, man, they're charging them 350% interest. So they get a loan like this, they never can pay this off. So don't get involved in things like this. Legal rights to consumers. Yeah, there's some laws out there. If there's a lemon law, you buy a vehicle, there's some lemon laws out there that if you've had immediate problems with it, the paint's coming off, it's supposed to be brand new, hey, there's some lemon laws out there that can protect you. Also, Auto Repair Facilities Act, each state has one of those that helps protect you as well. And then usury laws, yeah, they cap interest rates as well. So know what your rights are as a consumer, and that Consumer Action Handbook, that can help you with a lot of that information. Okay, car buying in Oklahoma. You're going to have a sales or excise tax of 4.5%. Okay, and it's all based on what type of car you buy. If you buy a new car, it's based on actually what you paid for the vehicle. If you buy a used car, it's based on the Kelley Blue Book value of the vehicle. So maybe you spent $8,000 on a car that was actually worth about $12,000. Well, your excise and sales tax is going to be based on $12,000. Just so you know that, give you a heads up. That bottom bullet there, you don't want to forget that, because your military affidavit form, that can definitely save you money on taxes and your tags, okay? So pay attention to that. There is one online, or you can contact us and we can make sure you have the most current one. Agenda. Okay, let's talk about the 3 deals of car buying. You have the purchase, the financing, and the trade-in. All right, the purchase. How much can you afford to spend? What type of car do you want? Where are you going to buy it from? Okay, what's a fair price for your car? You can answer a lot of these questions. It's another thing that you have access through the Air Force portal. You can go to library resources and online resources, and you can scroll down and find consumer reports. And consumer reports, hey, it kind of makes a judgment out there on every product out there. And there's a bunch of things out there for cars and trucks where you can actually look up, ratings on cars they could be 10 years old. Now, you may not be one that's going to buy a car that's 10 years old, but that's okay. But if you want to know, hey, how was that Subaru back in 2015 that I'm really looking at buying? Well, look at that information. You got access to this at your fingertips. So do your homework and pay attention, okay? Review your finances. Review your spend plan. How do you know how much you can afford? Okay, most experts, they're going to say you should not have more than about 25% of your net income to go towards car expenses. Now, what does that entail though? It's not just your car payment. You got to think about your car insurance. You got to think about the fuel you're going to put in your car, and you got to think about the maintenance that you're going to have to do, because each of us, we all have to change the oil periodically, and we have to do other things like tires if we keep cars long enough. So you want to make sure that you're ready financially to be able to do that. So review your credit report, get a pre-approved loan, determine what your car payment's going to be, and estimate your operating expenses. You can really find out, the great website right there listed at the bottom under edmunds.com/TCO. Hey, that's a great website. That's true cost of ownership of a vehicle, and they look at every one of them. So you want to see what's the better vehicles out there? This website, it'll actually show you which one's good, okay? The financing, where are you going to finance it from? Okay, just because you're a USAA member doesn't mean that they can give you the cheapest interest rate. Okay, so it's okay, check around. Maybe Tinker Federal Credit Union can offer the cheapest interest rate, okay, because maybe you're a first-time buyer or something like that. So check with them. It's okay to ask the question, okay? What are the finances charged? Where can you get help with looking at a contract? Your local legal office right here on Vance, they would be happy to look at a contract before you sign your life away for the next 5 years. And don't, there's a lot of folks out there trying to get your money and they want it instantly, and they may tell you, well, this deal is only good today and it won't be good tomorrow. Just get up and walk away. Okay, trust me, they'll take your money back the next day. You just want to make sure that if you want somebody to look at it, the legal officer would be happy to do that. Okay, deal number 3, the trade-in, okay? If you do a private sale, you should make more money. Is there more effort on your part? You bet there is. Now, what a lot of people like to do, just because it's convenient, they just like to trade it in. You're going to get less money, but it is convenient, okay? Use those available resources to set the price, to tell them what you're going to pay. Remember, it's your hard-earned money, and it's what you're going to be willing to pay for that item. The summary of sources of help, yeah, we're there automatically, okay? The Airman and Family Readiness Center, we're going to be there. Your base legal office is going to be there. The library, media, online resources like that item through the Air Force portal and consumer reports. And then the handouts that I've mentioned several times. I'll make sure that you get that information once we finish up the training, okay? So let's talk about home buying strategies. Okay, we'll look at that. How much can you afford? The one thing you want to look at is, most people that go through a bank to finance things, to buy a home, they don't really want you to get more than 28% of what your gross income is for a house payment. Okay, so that's kind of a number to look at. Now, some folks will let you go in full debt up to like 40%. But keep in mind, when you do that, there may be a lot of things you want to save money for that you just can't do because you're what they call house poor. Okay, you're maybe living in a house that's really too expensive at this point in time. So start low. It's okay to start low. What can you really afford? Remember, when you're looking at different things, when you're looking at calculators, they don't add in what they call escrow. What is escrow? Well, that is your taxes and your insurance, okay? So that's something to think about. Consider repairs, maintenance, homeowners association dues. Different cities, they're going to have some neighborhoods or subdivisions where you're going to have to pay, if you want to live there, because maybe it's maybe they have a community pool or a community park or tennis courts or things like that, you may have to pay homeowners association dues. So keep that in mind. Now, what kind of house do you want? There's a lot of things to look for. It's kind of up to you what you want to do, okay, on that. Down payment. So we're going to mention the VA here. It's the third bullet down. The Department of Veterans Affairs. Yeah, down payment really not required. All right, I mentioned earlier what PMI is. Okay, if you didn't remember, it's private mortgage insurance. So typically what people will do, they'll do that top one, which is a conventional mortgage. If they've got 20% down, that's what they're going to do. The next one down, if they don't have the 20%, well, they'll just use the Federal Housing Administration, the FHA, because they know they only have to put 3 to 5% down. But if you're under 20% down and you're under that 20%, then you're going to have to pay your PMI to do that Federal Housing Administration. So, and typically that's what people do, but veterans, we have that opportunity to get a house through the VA home loan process. So maybe something to think about. Okay, choosing, okay, fixed rate. You always want to do a fixed rate. Whether it's 15, you can actually do a 20, you could do a 25, you could do a 30, whatever you want to do, okay? I would stay away from adjustable rate. and interest only, and then subprime. Subprime mortgages, if any of you guys have seen that movie called The Big Short, it shows what happened back in 2008 and 2009, where they were making loans to people with subprime mortgages. So yeah, you don't want to get involved with that. Always keep in mind, I want that fixed rate so it doesn't fluctuate. Okay, let's talk about insurance. Transfers, what does insurance do? The purpose really, it transfers risk of financial loss or hardship. There are life events that affect insurance needs, and the Air Force provides some insurance, but maybe not all types of insurance. So things to look for. Let's cover some of that stuff. Okay? So life insurance. Okay, there's basically two different types of life insurance. There's term insurance, and then there's what they call permanent insurance. The permanent is whole life, universal life, variable life. It's just an insurance type that they offer. It's a lot more expensive than what you would get from the term. While you're in the military, you're paying $25 a month for $400,000 coverage. Okay, if you have SGLI, you're automatically covered under TSGLI, and all of your kids are automatically covered as well. Now, if you're married and you want to cover your spouse, you can cover your spouse at $100,000. And it's all based on her age, or him or her age. So it just depends. You know, it usually starts off pretty low, like $5 to $7 a month. Okay, so you may want to look into that once you do get married. VGLI, it's really for people who are leaving the military. Maybe you're separating and you're 100% disabled. Or retirees, they can do VGLI if they want to. So you just have to keep in mind. You can look at Google on VGLI tables, and you'll see that it's pretty expensive as time goes on. So that'd be something to kind of look into. Now there are also some other commercial type policies, but then there's that permanent insurance. So you just want to be careful. If you decide to get something other than term, make sure you're reading the fine print about what they're actually offering and what the cost is going to be. Okay, let's move on. Health insurance. So first thing you want to do, if you get dependents, whether you get married and then you have children or whatever, then you want to make sure that you get those dependents enrolled in DEERS. Okay, so you'll want to go, you'll have to take your marriage certificate and your birth certificate if there's children and get them enrolled in DEERS. Okay, coordinate any spouse benefits with DEERS on that. Okay, renters and homeowners insurance. Most of you know what this is. Renters insurance is basically if you're renting a house downtown and maybe you got a couple of roommates and you got all of this stuff that's inside this house, and it's all your personal information or your personal items. So what renters insurance covers is your stuff. Because if that house gets flooded or it burns down, the person that owns the house is only responsible for the domicile, for the shell of that house. Everything on the inside is up to you. So if you want to cover that, you can do it through renter's insurance. And then if you own a home, you're going to have to get homeowner's insurance. And it's not that expensive. Typically, you know, you got a $150,000 home, you may pay $100 a month for your homeowner's insurance. And that is an item that they would take out like for your escrow cost. Okay, so that'd be something to look at when you look at possibly purchasing a home. Auto insurance, okay, there's different types. There's liability, there's property, medical. It's going to cover different things. Like you could get the windshield buyback thing. Like if you want to cover your windshield because you know if you had to replace it yourself, it's $400. Well, maybe you're okay with spending $6 a month just in case you're going down the highway and an 18-wheeler kicks a rock up and shatters your front windshield. So that may be something that you want to add to your auto insurance policy. So there's other things. Just make sure whatever you're signing for that you understand what they're going to actually cover. So let's look at the review. Use a calculator, comparison shop. The big one here is if you can, under any kind of insurance, whether it's homeowners or automobile insurance, choose high deductibles. This is where you can benefit yourself by building that emergency fund. Because if you can afford to pay a deductible, like let's say an example, $1,000 deductible for your homeowner's insurance, because a storm just came through and dropped 4.5-inch hail in Enid, Oklahoma, which actually that did happen back in the summer of 1993 when I got here. We were on the national news. It was crazy. But if you pick a high deductible like that, then you can cover that initial cost, and then the insurance will cover the rest of it. So you can benefit yourself by paying lower monthly premiums if you can afford a higher deductible. Okay? Organize your records. So let's check what we just briefly talked about, insurance. Okay? And then we'll finish it up, and then I'll send you some other questions at the end just so we know, okay, yes, you did pay attention and you know some of this information, so I can get you signed off for completing this training. Okay, a few questions and we're done. How does insurance protect us against the risk of bad things happening? Okay? Some of you, if you said transferring risk, that's exactly what the answer is. Okay, let's move on. Number 2, when choosing property insurance, it is best to opt for this type of coverage to get the most value for lost items. Okay, that's going to be your replacement value. So always ask about that. What does the replacement value cost? Okay. What is the maximum life insurance provided by the government to service members through SGLI? You should know that. That is D, $400,000. The automotive insurance pays for your legal responsibility to others for bodily injury and property damage. What is that? Well, that's your liability insurance. That's what covers that. Okay, when separating from the military, what is typically the most expensive insurance to replace? Now, you may have picked up on this one when I first started doing this brief. And if you guessed health insurance, you're absolutely correct. Health insurance in the military, yeah, we all pay for Medicare, but that's really when we turn 65. But your health cost, I mean, it's nothing while you're active duty. And even as a retiree, $50 a month is pretty easy, okay? So here's a summary of all the items that we've kind of talked about today. And if we didn't cover it in detail, then I'll be sending you handouts just to kind of give you a better understanding. And by all means, you can always contact me and ask the question. Hey, feel free to send me an email. I mean, my email address is paul.williamson.9@us.af.mil. You'll find it on the Vance email. And then the other one that I'll just go ahead and re-mention for the BRS point of contact, her name is Miss Sandra Ott, and she is the only Ott, O-T-T, on the Vance email. You'll find her, so make sure you send her an email if you're a ROTC person and you want to do BRS, but make sure you don't contact her until you've been on station for 30 days. Okay, this is our information. We're in building 314. We share the building with the library. We share the parking lot with the fitness center. So we're right there, and that is my phone number. And right now, under coronavirus, if you call that number, 213-7540, it will forward you on to my cell phone. If you call that number and then you get my cell phone, hey, leave a message. A lot of times it'll be a number that I don't recognize and I don't pick the phone up. So make sure you leave a message and I will call you back as soon as possible just to help you with any of your financial needs. So that concludes today's presentation, and I'll make sure that I get you the questions to take care of this so we can get you signed off for completing your first duty station officer finance brief. Have a great day.